Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. With 25.11% of registered voters in Hopkins County casting ballots, Clay Harrison was elected judge, Hopkins County Court at Law. He has no Democratic challenger in the November general election. Joe Price was elected Commissioner Precinct 4 with 701 votes, or 55.11% of the total. John David Ch.18 received 487 votes and Kevin Cole 84 votes. Again, there will be no Democratic contender for the Precinct 4 position. Republican Tracy Orr Smith will face Democrat Rico Alexander in November for the office of County Clerk. Smith received the Republican nomination with a win over Mike Dodd. Smith received 2,697 votes, Dodd 1,692. In the county treasurer race, Andrea Griggs and Danny Davis will face one another in a runoff election Tuesday, May 27th. Incumbent Jim Thompson fell short with 1,381 votes, or 30% of the vote. Griggs received 1,752 votes, or 38.12%, and Davis 1,463 votes, or 31.83% of the vote. There will be no Democrat opponent in November for the county treasurer's race. Greg Anglin will face Edward Ed Moore in the race for Commissioner Precinct 2. Anglin received 398 votes, or 48.82%, and Moore 320 votes, or 32.82%. John Wilburn received 257 votes in the Commissioner Precinct 2 race. There is no Democrat for Precinct 2 Commissioner in the November general election. State Senator District 2 incumbent Bob Hall will face Kendall Scudder, a Democrat, in November, and State Representative District 2 Dan Flynn will face Democrat Bill Brannon. Cindy Burkett carried Hopkins County but failed to carry the district as she fell short of the Republican nod for the District 2 State Senate seat. Burkett carried Hopkins County with 2,542 votes to incumbent Hall's 2,197 votes. Incumbent Flynn received 11,803 votes district-wide to defeat Slayton for the Republican nomination for the Representative District 2 race. In Hopkins County, Flynn received 2,535 votes, Slayton 2,174. Across the district, Flynn received just over 51% of the votes and won by 790 vote margin. Beth, Razier, Rose, Junelle, and a portion of Gossett Lane have been repaved. Calvert Street will be milled and repaved during spring break, according to City Manager Mark Maxwell. Maxwell made a report to City Council in the March 6th meeting Tuesday night. According to Maxwell, the next capital improvement project will be to replace 2,400 linear feet of aging sewer force main and 2,090 feet of gravity main near the hospital. Currently, the main passes through the middle of the hospital complex. This would be a nightmare, he said, if the main ever ruptures. The proposed route will go around the hospital complex rather than through it. 1/3 of the city's waste passes through this particular line. The work at the wastewater treatment plant is on schedule. The 3 primary clarifier basins have been constructed and the effluent troughs are being constructed now. Other concrete structures adjacent to the clarifiers are under construction. Maxwell expects to bring the clarifiers online in July, weather permitting. Construction of the Crosstown Trail is ongoing. This grant-funded project will connect Buford Park to Coleman Park, as well as the high school and civic center complex with a concrete path. It will also replace sidewalk on the north side of Conley Street. The Harlem Wizards are coming to Sulphur Springs High School Monday, March 19th. Doors will open at 5:30 p.m. and game time is 6:30 p.m. The evening promises to be a fun-filled event that's great for kids and adults and will guarantee to put a smile on your face, according to the Sulphur Springs Elementary School PTO. Proceeds from the game will assist in fundraising for playground equipment for the elementary school. The Wizards will face administrators and teachers from Sulphur Springs High School. Tickets purchased before the event are $10 for adults and children. Tickets can be purchased at Sulphur Springs Elementary School or online at harlemwizards.com. Tickets will be available the day of the game at Sulphur Springs High School.
There is always something new going on at the Extension office, and Johanna Hicks, who is one of our Extension agents, came in to tell us about the Do Well, Be Well Diabetes series.
I always do this series in the springtime so people can kind of get in the routine of watching for the information. But Do Well, Be Well with Diabetes is a series.
Okay.
It is a 5-lesson series, and I've had people call, I'd like to come to the second one, and I explain to them that it is a series because one kind of builds on the previous lesson. Anyway, it's going to be in April. It's going to be on Mondays and Thursdays. And the dates are April 9th, 12th, 16th, 19th, and 23rd. And it will be held at the Extension office on Houston Street here in Sulphur Springs. Now, because I know how busy people can be, I am offering 2 different times.
Great.
We're offering it at 1:30 in the afternoon, and then we will repeat it at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
So those that work outside the home can come in the evening, and those who prefer not to drive in the evening can come in the afternoon session.
Okay.
We will cover all the basics of diabetes management. We will talk about what is diabetes, what goes wrong in your body when you have diabetes. This class is particularly designed for people with type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
But we'll talk about, what goes wrong in the body. We'll talk about nutrition and the role that food plays on managing diabetes. We'll talk about how to do a finger stick to check your blood glucose. We'll talk about what the range should be for most people. We'll talk about how many carbohydrate servings people should have, because a lot of times they understand what carbohydrate foods are, but they don't know how many they should have. And we do let people know that, yes, you do still need carbohydrates because they provide energy, but you have to watch them because they are the ones that affect your blood glucose the most. We talk about diabetes and exercise and the role that exercise plays. We also talk about medications, and I always have a pharmacist that comes in, and we talk about the role of diabetes medications because each one has a little bit different role.
Okay.
There are some that are more common, and so we'll have a pharmacist come in and talk about the diabetes medications as well as insulin. And then our last session, we talk about how to prevent or delay complications. We'll talk about doctor's visits, what you should have and what tests you should have and how often, and also what your numbers should be as far as blood pressure, cholesterol, your hemoglobin A1C. So it is really, really a very helpful series for people who not only newly diagnosed with diabetes, but those who have had it for a while that just need a refresher. Maybe their blood glucose control is not what it should be, and this will give them a really good refresher on, how to manage their diabetes. The cost of the series is $25. And that's not per lesson, that's for the entire series. And that covers the materials because they will get a nice 3-ring notebook.
Okay.
And each lesson that they come, we'll give them more handouts to go with that lesson. They'll also get some recipes. We'll be having refreshments and door prizes as well because we want to make this fun. So that $25 covers everything. Now, I always tell people if the cost is a burden, let me know, and I will work with them on that.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a really excellent source. And as I mentioned, I do present some of the lessons, but I also bring in pharmacists, and I bring in people who are trained in geriatrics on physical activity.
Okay.
So it's really a fun series.
Well, I have some things I want to ask you that may be more like myths. I mean, you can tell me whether this has any grounding or not. Let's say a person might ask, okay, so I have diabetes and the person sitting next to me has diabetes, but do the same rules apply for both people across the board?
Oh, it would be so easy if we could tell you exactly what to eat and when to eat it. But diabetes is different for everybody. That's why it's so difficult to give a cookie cutter solution. And I'll give a perfect example. My son, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 2.5, and that's a whole nother story. But when he was living at home, he's married now and has a 9-month-old baby. But when he was living at home, he loved to go to our local Mexican food restaurant and order the child's enchilada plate. And, you think about those foods, the rice and the beans and the tortillas, lot of carbs. But about 2 or 3 hours after having that meal, his blood sugar would drop. And so on our checkup to take him to the doctor, I asked the dietitian, I said, why is his blood sugar dropping after eating so many carbohydrates? And she explained it to me. She said, now, this doesn't happen with everybody, but with Travis it does. But you think about the Mexican food, it's very high in protein as well. The cheese and the meat and the beans are very high protein. And so the protein kind of stabilized the blood sugar. So by the time the insulin had kicked in, it was actually lowering his blood glucose too much because the protein was stabilizing it. Wow. And so now that doesn't, I'm not telling everybody you've got a green light to go out and order a big plate of Mexican food, but that does, it's just a different story for everybody. You may follow your meal plan by the book, and you may exercise, and your blood sugars can still be kind of fidgety, but it all has to do with stress and illness, even
age?
And age, even timing of your meals. It's best if you can eat at about the same time every day and have those snacks if you need those. But yeah, it's very difficult for me to sit down, and I've had people say, would you please just make me a meal plan? Well, I don't like to do that because we want people to still enjoy their favorite foods, but understand the carbohydrate foods.
And it is something that you have to learn to understand.
Yes.
It's a science, really.
Yes, and we give them materials that will help them understand foods that are high in carbohydrates, foods that are low in carbohydrates. We teach them how to recognize signs of high and low blood sugar. And I tell them this does not take the place of a doctor's visit. Right. They still need to see a physician. But this just gives them information so that they go into that doctor's visit being armed with more information on how to manage their diabetes.
Well, this kind of touches on what you already said, but a person may already know they have diabetes, they've been diagnosed, and they've managed it, but something changes in their life, age, they have too many birthdays, or some life situation happens and they have more stress. So the call is to manage it differently and order to get through your day.
Yes, and another thing that I tell people, even if you do follow the book, sometimes your genetics are stronger than your lifestyle. Okay. And if you have the genetic tendency, if you have diabetes in your background, you have a stronger tendency to develop diabetes, even though you may be eating right and exercising. So life is not always fair. But type 2 is generally thought of as adult onset. Usually it can be avoided by making good food choices and physical activity. Not always, because sometimes those genetics kick in, and there's not a lot you can do about that.
For some people, actually, they have felt like their diabetes was reversed with lifestyle changes.
Yes, now we have had some people that have watched what they eat. They've lost weight, they've exercised, and they have been able to control their diabetes by exercise and diet without having to get on medications. And so that is the goal, is to be able to control it before it gets to the point of having to go on a lot of medications and insulin.
And in that insulin-giving lifestyle, which you would love to avoid if you could. So if diabetes seems to be a mystery, they can come to your series.
Yes.
to find out
yes.
much more about it.
Yes, and we'll teach them the difference between type 1 and type 2. As I mentioned, my son has type 1, and he was diagnosed at the age of 2.5. And people would say, oh, did you feed your child a lot of candy? Well, no, I did not feed my child candy. Somewhere he had that genetic tendency, and when he had a virus, they believed that his immune system, the beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin, it kicked in, and so his immune system destroyed the beta cells that produce insulin, and so therefore he has to have insulin.
Okay.
So usually people with type 1 must have insulin. People with type 2 can usually control it by diet or exercise or oral medications.
Okay. Well, it's more and more has come to light over the past few decades about diabetes, and it's no longer needs to be a mystery if you feel the symptoms or get the diagnosis.
That's true, and it is not a death sentence. A lot of people think, oh, I've been diagnosed with diabetes. It is not a death sentence. It can be managed. It is a chronic disease, meaning that right now there is not a cure, but they're getting so very close. In the meantime, we manage it, but you have to be diligent about it. It's something you cannot ignore. You have to be diligent about it. And so we talk about all of that in these classes. They're very informal. We let people air their frustrations and visit with others at their table. It's a very, very good class. And so I recommend anybody that is interested to please give us a call. They can call my office. The number is 903-885-3443. And all of the classes will be held at the AgriLife Extension office on Houston Street.
Okay. I know that you have many things in succession coming up through the spring. What else might you have besides your Do Well, Be Well series?
Besides the Do Well, Be Well, I also have another marriage education workshop. And I usually do this one 3 times a year. I had one in February. I have another one coming up in May. And it's going to be on May 12th. And this particular workshop it's especially beneficial to engaged couples, because at the end of the workshop they will receive a certificate to save $60 when they apply for a marriage license. $60 is the state portion of the marriage license fee. The workshop is free, and I even provide lunch and refreshments. And again, it's at my office. It'll be on Saturday, May 12th, starting at 8:30. And again, all they have to do is call my office and tell me they want to come, and we'll put them on the list.
Okay, to the marriage workshop. So do you have a crop of couples who come each time?
I do. I usually have 3 or 4 couples that come each time I offer this.
Okay.
So it is very beneficial. And every weekend in the paper, I see couples who have applied for a marriage license, and I'm thinking, oh, I could have saved you $60.
I know it.
But it is Saturday, May 12th, and then I have another one on August 25th. And the certificate is good for 1 year.
Okay.
So they don't have to get married as soon as they get the certificate. They can save it and apply for their marriage license up to a year later.
Well, that's very thoughtful and very handy.
Here's Don Julian with sports.
The pitching of Bailey Haggerty was a big plus for the Lady Cat softball team as they won 3-2 over Greenville at Lady Cat Park Tuesday night in the district opener for both teams. We get an assessment of the game from Lady Cat softball coach David Carrillo.
You know, it was one of those games that, I just felt like, well, it's a district opener. So, one, I kind of felt like we were a little bit nervous. And 2, there's just so much that seemed like they were going on all around us. So, it just seemed like we just didn't seem in sync from the get-go. And as the game went on, I could really tell we weren't in sync. But those are the type of games that you have to win sometimes. And when you're not playing well, I felt like we were hitting the ball and moving the ball for the most part. We were just hitting it at them. And, we did some uncharacteristic defensive, mistakes that we usually don't make and plays that we need to make. So, again, it was just a kind of a sloppy game by us offensively as well as some things on defense. But Bailey Haggerty threw an awesome game. She kept us in it. She actually, I had to say, she shut them down. So that way we were able to just score the 3 and being able to win it. So, we got the timely hits when we needed them. We just, you always want more. But I'll take the 3-2 and be happy. Sometimes I'd rather win ugly than be good, and so that's okay.
Yeah, a pretty loss.
Pretty loss means nothing. So yeah, like you said, but I was really proud of the kids, the way they kind of hung in there, and the way they're buying into the team stuff, and you just want to play better at home, and that's kind of what the disappointing part of it was. You want to win games and you want to smash them, but you got to win these games like we just won last night. So like I said, we're 1-0 and go to Hallsville on Friday. So we'll see what happens.
Who got some of the top hits for you last night?
Actually, I believe our top part of our lineup was really good last night. Alyssa, Kelsey hit some at the beginning, and Brinkley, Driver, of course, she's doing it all the time. So, Sadie Stroud got a key hit. For the most part, I was looking at the box scores. Our front part of the lineup did very well. And we kind of wasted some. Kate Womack got a double late in the game, and we kind of wasted that one and left her on. So for the most part, that there wasn't really much excitement, because we weren't able to get the runs in. But the 3 runs that we got was the ones that we needed to win.
Kate, just kind of a find for you, kind of one of those that kind of emerged during your pre-district schedule.
Yes, she's been hitting the ball really well. I mean, she, for the most part, like I said, she just goes and does her thing and puts it in the gap. To me, from what I see off of her so far, she's a really good gap-to-gap hitter. And like I said, she doesn't get rattled. She's always the same, and then that's a contribution to. I mean, that's just a credit to just how she thinks and competes. She doesn't get rattled much. Again, she struck out her first at bat, but I never saw her get rattled. And that's the things that you're looking for in a player, because sometimes they unravel. And her, she's just a sophomore, so she handles it pretty well. So I've been proud of the way she's been able to deal with things and be able to put the ball in play and hit the ball.
Hallsville always tough. What are they like this year?
Hallsville, yes, they're going to be tough. It's hard to win over there. I actually already talked to some folks. They hit the ball very well. They got a new freshman pitcher that's decent, hits her spots really well. And the middle of the lineup is what you got to really worry about. But they're going to pound the ball, so we got to figure out a way to slow them down, and then we have to go out there and score runs, a lot more than 3. So that being said, we're going to go to work today and go to work tomorrow, and then be ready to make that trip to Hallsville.
How was the field last night?
Awesome. It was great. The crowd was good. The field was excellent. It's hard to believe that thing was really, really muddy and a quagmire for a little while, but it's back to the way it usually is. So, it just needed some sun and some good weather. So I think we're going to see that for a while. So, we're ready to roll.
The Wildcat soccer team won their 3rd straight game in the second half of district play as they defeated Texas High 3-0 in Texarkana Tuesday night. And I talked with Wildcat soccer coach Nikki Wiggins.
Yeah, we actually created a lot of chances last night, and it just wouldn't. I think we hit the post like 4 times, hit the keeper right in his stomach a few times, and it was just I thought the kids played very well, being 1-0. Not letting that frustration get to them, because it should be up, but it was kind of good for us to play with some pressure. Try to don't give up a goal. And I know in the first round we gave up a few goals that we shouldn't have, but it's like I told them, the 3-0 I feel like it's better than the 10-1 the first time, just because the way we played, and we didn't give up a goal, and just kept fighting, and then it was 1-0 with, I'm going to say, about at least 15 minutes left in the game, so it was still, they kept creating those opportunities and missed a few chances, but came through there. I know Axel scored again for us. Angel Tavera played well. Enrique Ariana had a goal and an assist. So, I mean, it was the goals we had were created. It wasn't just like we shot and it went in, like I think the first time we played them. So, J-Lo played really well in the goal again for us, and the defense, led with Huff, DJ, and J-Lo, and DJ Abram. And I know Ram, he got some minutes last night for us. He played center back for us. So it was a pretty good team win. Proud of the kids, and like we've talked about, it's just one game at a time. It doesn't matter who we're playing, one game at a time. So.
Well, I seemed like from talking to you before, you weren't real excited about the timing of the bye. I got the same tune from Joel Bailey, and I think I got it from him the first time. And so I'm assuming you're feeling that way again. 3 wins, 2-0.
Yeah, I'd like to keep going. It's when those, like we've talked about before, preseason, when you take a break and stuff, nobody's injured right now, too bad. So it's almost like we kind of want to keep playing, because we got to keep the intensity up and just don't have a letdown. We can't afford, the situation we're in. We can't afford to have a letdown. So we just have to move on from there, and hopefully we have an intense practice. I've challenged the boys, let's have an intense practice, just like a game, so we can keep everything rolling and just keep this momentum going.
When you do go back, you'll be at home. Mount Pleasant coming in with a big game.
Oh yeah, it's a big game for us for sure. I don't know how big it is for them. Obviously they want to stay undefeated in district. They're playing extremely well right now. So hopefully, we hadn't tied or beat them in a long time. So I'm challenging the boys to rise up, and it's one of those deals where you were going to play hard, but we can't let that affect the rest of the season. Yes, it's a big game. We'd love to get a point or two out of that, and it would be big. But like I told you a while ago, it's just that's our next game. That's the one we're looking for. We're not looking towards the rest of them. It's the next one. So hopefully we'll play good. I know it's going to be our spring break, their spring break. So some routines will be adjusted a little bit, but hopefully we'll play really hard.
It took a while for the Lady Cats soccer team to score against Jesus De Leon's Texas High Lady Tigers Tuesday night at Prim Stadium. The Lady Cats got 2 big goals in the second half of overtime to defeat Texas High 2-0 in a game that was tough, physical, and emotional. I talked with Lady Cats soccer coach Joel Bailey after the game in the Prim Stadium press box.
It's something that we don't want to do, something we don't always plan for, but winning in overtime is the same as a 3-point victory, so definitely good for us. Didn't want to go into PKs to where one would only get 2 and the other one would get 1. So it's still as if it were ended in regulation.
Had goals. Keely Hudgens had the first one. She looked like she was well defended, somehow worked the ball from right foot to left foot and put it in the goal.
Oh, I know. Early on in regulation, she had a great opportunity just off of a rebound and scrapped. And I asked her, hey, how did that ball not get in? She said, I don't know, Coach. They just stopped it on me. But, she made it count in the overtime, and then obviously with the game winner and then the extra goal with Gracie on the second one.
What a beautiful assist. Melina kicks that ball over their defense,
yes.
And Gracie, as if knowing that that's going to happen, races in there, and all she's got to do is beat the keeper, which she did.
Absolutely, yeah. Melina plays an excellent ball in, and it's things that we practice a lot, playing the ball out of the air, and the keeper was a little out of position up the field a little bit more, and Gracie just dumps it in over her head. It was on frame, and goal.
It feels special to beat Jesus. He was your kind of the main man, and you were his lieutenant, and you beat him twice this year.
Yeah, I mean that's special, but to put things into perspective, we're trying to seed up, not seed down, and definitely want to go into the playoffs seeding well. Coach DeLeon and I, we have a mutual respect for one another, and whether it were to be vice versa, we'd still congratulate each other. We just made it happen this year. Who knows, next year's the tables could be turned or we'll still be favorable with outcomes. But no, total respect for Coach DeLeon, and it's reciprocated back my way. So it's just another game.
Yeah. Now you get a bye. So is it good to have a bye right now? I know last time you wish you could keep playing.
I'm not a big fan of the bye because obviously big momentum off this victory. Now we kind of have to sit idle and wait around for other teams to possibly catch up to us. I'd rather keep playing. We're still in that competitive mindset, and I don't like the break. I'd rather stay in it, stay focused, stay sharp, and just get back with the normal routine. But yeah, the bye and spring break, and I just don't want us to get a little apprehensive or antsy waiting around until next Tuesday night. So a week off, non-competitively in the middle of a hard season, sometimes that'll catch up with the teams. I think it might have caught up with us the first go-around, but I think we're a lot more focused. Definitely having McKenna back off a long injury, she definitely helped our possession and scoring opportunities, and she didn't play against Mount Pleasant. So, again, another arrow in the quiver.
And Mount Pleasant, a real tough game coming up. You have to go over there. So That awaits in a week's time.
Absolutely. You know, Mount Pleasant will be up. Obviously, they'll have great crowd support out of them, and hopefully, you know, we'll bring an equally just as loud crowd on our side. And you know, it's anybody's ball game. At this time of the year, putting on a uniform's not enough. You've got to play a complete game, and that's what we did tonight. We just had to take an extra 20 minutes to get it done. So hopefully, no more overtime victories and just straight out regulation victories.
The Saltillo Lions lost a baseball game to North Hopkins on Tuesday. The Panthers took a 19-0 win. North Hopkins scored the 19 runs on 9 hits and 7 Lion errors. The Panthers' starting pitcher, Wyatt Wharton, teamed with reliever Tate Myers to throw a 4-inning no-hitter. Wharton also had a big game at the plate, going 3 for 3 with a double and 4 RBIs. Colby Cameron was 3 for 4 for North Hopkins with 3 runs scored and 3 RBIs. The game was called after 3.5 innings. Saltillo's Lyle Bench drew 2 walks for the Lions during the game.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.